So we're going to check the rear drum brakes. I actually have a master FoxBody mechanic with me.
This is where you want to check. Put a screwdriver right there. Then try to pry it out. If it moves,
so I'm going to need emergency brakes on this car.
You need emergency brake cables.
Hello, welcome back to Gearhead 704. I'm Matt, and today we have something a little bit different for you. What we were doing today was I was actually in the process of putting new wheels and tires on my car, but that video is already up. If you haven't seen that, I will throw one of those cards right now so you can check that out. What we're doing today, while you're going to do this, while you're going to change the wheels, it's a good time to check the brakes. So we're going to check the rear drum brakes, make sure that there's no issues, and I actually have a master FoxBody mechanic with me, and that is Matt. Here's Matt, Fox Mustang Restoration.
Hello.
Yep, and so Matt, we've got the wheels off here. These are drum brakes. And you said it's always a good idea when you've got the wheels off to just go ahead and check the brakes, right?
Absolutely.
You're right there.
I mean, you already got the tires off, which is the hard work. You might as well check the condition of your brakes.
Yep.
So we'll do a basic rear brake inspection here. The first thing we're going to look for is to see if it needs adjustment. If it's adjusted properly, the brakes are going to push against the brake drum. You want them to drag just a little bit. That's a proper adjustment. And here, I can spin and wobble, so I know that the brakes are out of adjustment.
That's too loose, right?
That's too loose, yeah. When I go like this, you can watch right here, the drum is going to wobble on that stud.
Oh yeah. See,
that's the play I'm checking for. When you make contact with the stud, now you're also adding the resistance from the gear and the transmission and the drive shaft. So this is where you want to check the play, is just in that little bit of slop in the hole in the drum and the stud.
You want it a lot tighter than that.
Yeah. So I can tell that's loose. So we're just going to pull this off.
All right, drum's off.
And we'll do a basic brake inspection. First thing I notice, which is very common, it looks like this may be a little out of adjustment. This lever right here should be up just a little bit more to lock into these teeth. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off. This is what a lot of mechanics miss. They don't seat this shoe right here very well. So we're gonna pop this spring off. This is your secondary shoe retaining spring. Secondary is the back.
Yep. Primary is over here on the side.
Primary is the front, yeah. And then I'm just gonna pop this off.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that's reset.
And so that piece, it was not flush like it should be back there, right?
Correct, yeah. You can kind of see right there how you got a shiny spot. And on the back, it's not shiny. That means this was out of place and was rubbing on a high spot. It wasn't set like it's supposed to be. So you got this lip right here, which is called a boss. It sticks out from the back of that plate. That boss should seat perfectly into this hole right here.
Okay. Yeah, the hole's right there, guys.
So, and then the fun part is, you gotta have this routed properly. Put this into the shoe. Make sure it's laid flat. And then you have to hold it against the shoe while you install the spring, but the spring also has to go behind that cable. So you can see I'm holding all that in place with my thumb.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take my tool, put my spring in place, and with the spring in place, it's gonna hold that retainers against the shoe properly.
Yeah, now the back of that is actually in that hole.
Yeah, the boss on the back of that plate is actually recessed into that hole. Now that should have moved that plate up a little bit. Now when we reset the cable, this should come up a little bit higher. So what I do down here, you'll notice the cable, the other end of it is hooked into the eyelet right here.
Yep.
And you see the red spring gives the tension to the lever, and then the hook on the cable goes in the same hole as the eyelet or the spring. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this tool to kind of pick this lever up. And you can see up here, as I do that, I gain slack on the cable.
Yep.
So now I can tuck that cable right into that little recess or groove. We let it go.
Yeah, I see that.
There we go. And now look, now the shoe's higher and it's actually locking into those teeth, because this is not just a round circle, this has teeth, and that's your adjustment.
Yeah.
So now that we got the adjuster working properly, now we can actually adjust the rear brakes. So we got a grommet back here.
The back side there, guys.
Yeah. Sometimes they're a little dry and hard.
There it goes. Grommet safe.
Brake spoon is what they're called.
That's a brake spoon. Okay.
Yeah. So what you do when you get this grommet out, originally when we do the adjustment, we're going to have the drum on it. So we're spinning the drum, feeling for if the shoes, for when the shoes start to make contact with the drum, and that's when you're properly adjusted.
Yeah, we're trying to reduce that play, right?
Right. You want the shoes to drag the drum a little bit, but not hold it in place. You want to feel just a little bit of resistance. So the way that you adjust it is you get that grommet out with the drum on. You're going to stick this this tool through here, and then you actually just get caught on the teeth and you spin it. And it's a threaded shaft, so as you spin it, the threaded shaft moves the shoes apart, which move them closer to the drum, and you can see it's locking now. Every time I turn it, it locks. That's working properly, and that's what most people miss whenever they're doing the rear brakes. They don't make sure that this stays seated, which doesn't allow your adjuster to lock, and that's why a lot of people think that rear drums are no good, because they're always out of adjustment.
Right.
Rear disc is a little bit better, but as long as the rear drums are maintained properly, you really don't have any issues.
They work just fine, right? Yeah.
Yep. So now, I did adjust it out a little bit, so hopefully I didn't go too far. Yeah.
Now we can actually adjust it.
Yeah.
So.
See, this is going on no problem.
It slides on easy.
I'm like only halfway over the shoe, and I'm still wobbling. So that's too loose.
Okay.
So now what we're gonna do with the drum on, we're gonna wobble it.
Go through
like
that
this.
same hole in the back. Yep.
And you're gonna hear.
I hear the clicks. Yep. Oh, yep. I can see it.
Clicks.
There we go. It's
There
not
we
moving
go.
as much.
Yep. I'm gonna push it in a little bit further. You got to make sure it's seated all the way in, because when you bolt the tire on, the tire is what actually holds the drum to the axle.
Okay.
So now I'm starting to get a little bit of resistance. Look at that. I'm barely wobbling anymore.
Huge difference.
I'm gonna go a little bit more. One or two more clicks. See, now there, I'm actually pressed up against the drum, and I've got a little too much resistance. I don't want that much resistance.
Okay.
Because that's literally basically driving with the brakes on.
So we got to go back a little bit.
Right. So what we're gonna do now, it's a little bit tight. You can't just pull it straight off. The best way to do this is kind of just spin it, like wobble it, and there we go. To de-adjust it,
Drum off.
drum off, we just simply put a screwdriver right there. I'm going to open up that lever. You can see I'm just moving the lever away,
the wheel back,
so
right?
it's no longer locking. Now what I can do, now what I can do, I'm going to spin it back 2 clicks. 1, 2, and I'm counting the clicks by counting the teeth, because whenever the teeth come in contact, that's when it's going to click.
Right.
Now I've got it up against there. Now the drum should go on pretty easy, but not be wobbly. Yeah, see, now it's being a lot more picky on the fitment. You can hear it squeaking a little bit.
Yeah, we're not nearly
now,
as loose as before.
Yeah. Go on. I can feel just a little bit of resistance. You can see I'm having to put a little bit more pressure to get it to spin. It's not just wobbly to where it just rock back and forth.
Like before I could move it. I can't move it with just one hand right now.
Right, exactly. So this is a properly adjusted rear brake system. Whenever you do get that adjustment correctly, it raises your brake pedal. Now we'll go ahead and check the wheel cylinder. So the hydraulic system, like I said, when you push the brake pedal, it pushes the pistons out. It is possible for the pistons to seize or rust in place. Easy way to check that, take a little flathead screwdriver. You're gonna go all the way out into the piston, and you should be able to push that piston in. You'll have some resistance, and then the more pressure you put, that should move in. As long as it moves in,
you don't want it to be hard, right?
Yeah, you should be able to move it. You should be able to push it in. If you try to push it and it doesn't go anywhere, your wheel cylinder is seized, locked up, and it needs to be replaced. Your rear brakes are not working at all.
So mine is good. I don't have to replace that part.
Your wheel cylinder is good.
Hooray.
Yeah. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to check the e-brake. E-brake cable, you got this lever right here.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to see with the
It
line.
is a little bit hard. Yeah. Right there. I'm pushing on it, guys.
Yeah. I'm sorry, this is the lever attached to your e-brake cable.
E-brake lever, yep.
Yep. So, way you can check to see if your cable is not working correctly, you can go between the axle hub and put the screwdriver on the inside of the arm, then try to pry it out. If it moves, which this one moved considerably.
Yeah.
That means that your emergency brake cables are sticking some, and it's keeping some pressure on your brakes at all time.
So your brake is partially engaged, basically.
Your brake is, yeah, your emergency brake is partially engaged at all time.
So I'm gonna need emergency brakes on this car.
You need emergency brake cables. That should go almost all the way back to the fully seated position. That's what the spring, there is a spring on the e-brake cable in here. That spring is what's supposed to push it back.
Oh yeah, right there.
The spring in here.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So that's wraps around your cable. So when your e-brake cable starts to seize and bind up, that spring doesn't have enough pressure to reset the shoe, and that means you're constantly driving with your emergency brakes on, which means you're prematurely wearing out your brakes. But other
Good tip there. Yeah.
But that's the way to tell if you got a bad emergency brake cable, you got a seized wheel cylinder, and if your brakes are not being adjusted properly because the lock adjustment is not installed correctly.
Yeah, and which was due to this being in the wrong place.
Correct.
Awesome. Cool. So after we put the shoe on, obviously we got to put this back in. That snap in pretty easy?
It does.
Okay.
Especially if you get a new one and it's nice pliable rubber, then it's really easy. But yeah, other than that, they just kind of
cool. And you can put that back on before you put the drum on.
Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Matt. So let me know if you guys like this type of video. This is more of a how-to, tips and tricks, and it might be a new segment for the channel, something we're thinking about doing. So if you guys did enjoy this video or you did like this, please smash that like button. If you're stopping in for the first time, please subscribe, because we got a lot more content coming, not only on the convertible, but also the SSP. And we'll see you next time on Gearhead 704.